People ask, where do you get your ideas? Well, right here. Oh, this is my Martian landscape. Somewhere in this room is an African veldt. Just beyond, perhaps, is a small Illinois town where I grew up. And I'm surrounded on every side by my magician's toy shop. I'll never starve here. I just look around, find what I need, and begin. I'm Ray Bradbury. And this is...
Of course. Well, why should anything go as planned?
I don't know.
You know?
Good evening.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Welcome.
And good night. Welcome
Who
to...
are you?
I'm George.
I'm Kevin.
George!
Yeah.
This is binary dystopian droids seeking feeling.
Binary dystopian droid seeking feeling.
Does that make sense? Binary?
Like on off?
No, binary is what? Isn't that like
1
a
0
0
0
0
1
1
0
0 0 1 1 0
SOS.
0 0 1
1 0 0 1 0 0 1.
Now, can you actually
in distress?
Can you use binary as a language? Like, is it transmutable to English?
I just did.
Do it again.
I just did.
Welcome to Thunderdome.
Thunderdome.
Thunderdome. So, what's going on? What are we doing? Science fiction.
Well,
podcast.
First of all, someone's reading.
I know,
Someone's reading,
man.
George.
My son Jack is...
No!
What are you talking about? You mean me, Kevin? Yeah. You know, I owe a lot of it to my friend Pat, who recommended a short story to
McCrotch?
me. No, Pat McCrotch. That doesn't even work. Pat McCrotch. That's what it... No.
That's
there's
a classic
better,
from where I'm from.
There's a better version
What
of
is
that,
his?
though.
What is his name?
Phil McGroin.
Is friends with Pat McCrotch.
Then there's Bendover, obviously. Dr. Bendover. Hugh G-Rection.
We can't do this.
No, we're doing it now.
Yeah.
No, my
Get
friend...
in the TARDIS and go back.
My friend Pat recommended a short story to me.
McCrotch?
And we were talking We've had too much ice cream. We were talking about stories done in second person format. And he had told me about this short written by a writer that I really, really enjoy. And then he related to me a story about how he met him in Romans one time a couple of years ago.
Meeting an author doesn't make you an expert on the author, though.
No, not at all. I mean, if anything, it's sort of like an anecdotal, sort of meaningless, like, oh, I met
It's
that
like
guy.
trying to get street cred or something.
Well, no, it's because it's like, oh, well, you know what? I just finished Martian Chronicles. Oh, I met that guy. Oh, well, did you read the Martian? No, I didn't.
So, who would do that?
Who would ever do that?
But this guy's read the stuff,
This
right?
guy's read the stuff.
Okay, cool.
This guy's well-versed. And he recommended a short story to me called The Night. And it's by a guy it's by Ray Bradbury. And
was that your segue?
That was my segue, man. It was straightforward. And Kevin...
Have you ever written a second-person short story?
Have you ever Bradburied before? Have you ever met Ray Bradbury? No.
Pat Bradbury?
Pat Bradbury?
Your Pat is...
So he recommended this to me, and me and him were talking about sci-fi. So I sought it out thinking it was going to be science fiction, and I suggested it to you as well, and it fucking wasn't.
That one
sci-fi. It wasn't. It was good. It was a good story.
Called The Night. So I'm sitting over here saying to myself, like, yeah, I've read a lot of science fiction books.
Yeah.
And
You're steeped.
George won't read them. But then Pat McCrotch comes over, and now you're reading them. What's going on? What's Pat got that I don't got?
These are short stories.
So they're easier for...
I can do this in... I can do these
with the
short
stigmatism
in
and
between.
the apnea, it's harder for you to read, right?
These glasses are purely fashion. They're nothing.
You don't even need glasses.
I don't even need them. I don't even need glasses. I love the way they magnify my eyes to the size of, like, Disney characters. You know, that's just...
You've grown to tolerate the headaches. Yeah?
God, the headaches. Oh,
someone help me.
Oh, it's been years. Somebody please call a doctor. Mm-hmm. But, so if you haven't figured it out, today on Binary Dystopian Droid Seeking Feeling, we're going to talk about Ray Bradbury. Why? Really? It's Ray Bradbury, and you kind of can't talk about science fiction, especially science fiction literature, without at some point knocking into Ray Bradbury.
Well, we're in our classics phase now. We're looking at these biggies. Mm-hmm. The Dr. Y episode.
We did the Doctor and Doctor Who.
And so there comes a meta question, which is, we're a sci-fi podcast, so of course. But, okay, why? And my own personal bias is the Martian Chronicles, for me, reminds me of, like, bad English textbooks.
All right.
Which, by the way, as I searched for the, 5 or 6 titles we came upon, many of them popped right up with teachers' questions. And often talked about simile and allegory. And is it that Ray Bradbury wrote so much, or if that Ray Bradbury was right in a zone where things are very teachable? It's certainly not challenging. It's simple. Yeah. And maybe it was the time period where things weren't as complex yet. I don't know. A simpler times.
May I read a little something that I came across today?
Is it all those words?
It's all those words right there.
No. We're trying to gain listenership.
All
right,
let's take a listen.
Yeah,
all right.
Go for it, yeah.
Bradbury attributed 2 incidents to his lifelong habit of writing every day. He wrote every day of his life.
Boring.
The first of these, occurring when he was 3 years old, was his mother taking him to see Lon Chaney's performance in The Hunchback Notre Dame.
Was that live on stage?
No. Lon Chaney in the movie
call it a
The
performance?
Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Okay.
Have you never been?
Notre Dame?
Okay. Notre Dame.
Keep going.
The second incident occurred in 1932 when a carnival entertainer, one Mr. Electrico, touched the young man on the nose with an electrified sword, made his hair stand on end, and shouted, "Live forever!" Bradbury remarked, "I felt that something strange and wonderful had happened to me because of my encounter with Mr. Electrico. He gave me a future. I began to write full time. I have written every single day of my life since that day 69 years ago." I read that earlier today, and I was touched by it. I was like kind of profoundly touched by it.
Similar to how Mr. Bradbury was touched.
Kind of how Mr. Electrico. You know, what's funny is I wonder what came up in therapy years later, like for a 4-way Bradbury. As he's
4-way Bradbury?
4-way Bradbury. Oh my God, that's a great pickup you just did there, man.
69 years ago to the day.
To the day. So, I think the thing that I enjoy when I read Ray Bradbury, it's very simple. It's just the quality of the storytelling. You know, I think that they're simple. They're pretty A to B to C. But they're consistently kind of good. We've talked about this before, how I kind of glom on to the things that may be a little bit more goofy and comic book-esque, a little bit more silly, maybe even with a sense of humor. I like simple tales involving decent characters where there is either a lesson learned or a good amount of terror. And so, I mean, I like Ray Bradbury, man. I like him a lot. I
no
like
lesson in that story? No, none whatsoever. But those people were terrorized.
But I mean, some of the scarier stuff he's written.
We didn't read any scary stuff.
No, but I've read some of his EC Comics tales, and we did read one that I thought was flat out creepy. The One Who Waits.
Yeah. But...
And we'll get into the stories in a second.
How are we going to get into the stories?
We're going to say right beforehand, now we're going to get into the stories. But we're not going to do that right now, right?
We didn't discuss that.
We did too. It's right there. It's written there. Look.
No.
Look, you're absolutely right when you say he's not overly complex. Like, it's absent a lot of the heady sci-fi.
And that's not a evaluation.
Yeah.
That's it works.
Could you
it's
see
almost like a Hemingway.
Could you see yourself reading some of these with your boy?
Yes, I literally thought that I was actually thinking of handing the ones I printed him and letting him read them because I think it'd be a cooler trip for him. Because they're on the edge a little bit, right?
A little bit, yeah.
And I think he's sort of fascinated with that zone right now.
See, and that's what I love is I feel like these are the things that even though I didn't read these as a child, these are the types of things that would have profoundly affected me as a child. Like, these were the types of stories that I really, really clung to when I was a kid. These, like, simple tales of adversity and evil and good and space travel and just all wrapped up in kind of like a...
Well, here's the Martian Chronicles reminds me of old sci-fi.
Even the title, I think.
Because it is.
Like, yeah.
And these stories, I couldn't help but to just see, like, your classic, like, wind-up rocket-looking rocket that landed.
Totally, yeah.
And I could, for some reason, my mind made all the set pieces, if you will, the things he described, all 50s, like the tight silver suits with, like, puffy collar rings
like
on the bottom,
red V
and dome helmets with little...
Everything's got, like, toggle switches.
That?
I think it's indicative of the time they were written.
But isn't that cool how the brain assigns that?
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. He started writing in 1939. You know, these shorts that we read range from 1948 to 1954.
So really, I mean, that being a small enough range, that could just be a period of his.
Yeah.
And once again, when we try and eat the body of work like this in one episode, we get to a place where you're like, I mean, we're like firing blindly into the dark. I mean, anything we say right now might not actually reflect, but just a fragment of an entire body of work and a life of an author and stuff.
There is no way we are not going to piss off some hardcore Ray Bradbury fans at some point.
We already did.
We already have. Yeah,
indicating that a childhood trauma is the reason there's such a body of work.
Or by saying four-way Bradbury, which is now going to be a new sexual lingo in sci-fi from now on. You ladies may be interested in the four-way Bradbury?
Yeah. And those ladies are robots that you built yourself, and their name's Lisa! Yeah. Take that bra off your head, George.
Hey, did you see the Twilight Zone episode with the robotic grandmother?
No.
No? Okay, that's based on a Ray Bradbury story called I Sing the Body Electric. And I recently saw it just a couple months ago.
Interesting enough, I Sing the Body Electric, Walt Whitman.
Yeah.
Golden Apples of the Sun, Yeats. In the lead-up of Golden Apples of the Sun, even the guys in that particular story do some other literature references. And when I read these, I wondered, how deep was the well?
I believe also There Will Come Soft Rains is Whitman as well.
Cool. And that's sort of just like kind of the thing that we got going on with most things that are created. But I think did I just get a text from Intern Tony? What's up with that?
Oh, really?
He's going to call soon?
What?
Okay.
All right, well.
Anyways, Black Sabbath had a full well when they wrote what defined all the genres that came afterwards. And I'm only assuming that the well was deeper back then for Mr. Bradbury. And these guys had to riff off things like the classics of literature because there wasn't sci-fi giants to stand on.
Well, what did we had H.G. Wells already with the Martian invasion. We had some precursors to science fiction, but what the hell is that?
It's Tim.
It's who? It's Tony?
It's Tony. Yeah.
Intern Tony is calling. Oh, man. Hey, Tony.
We're recording, dude.
We're in the middle of the show, man.
Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear? Hi.
Yeah. You know we'll record at this time on Tuesdays. What's up?
Hey. Oh, no, I know you guys record. How you doing?
We're doing good.
We're good.
We're doing good, Tony. We're what's up, man? We're in the middle of recording the podcast.
What's that?
You're doing the Ray Bradbury.
We are.
Well, we kind of have to.
The
Yeah.
production meeting, we covered that.
Well, I know, and I left you notes.
Oh,
So you said you wanted to add something to this episode.
Well, I mean, I don't know him. I met him. I've met him. So.
you met Ray Bradbury?
Tony, you grew up in the greater Los Angeles area, right?
Yes, I did.
Well.
I've met him a couple times.
Oh, really? Okay.
Talked to him. Yeah. What's that?
Did you read the short stories that we were talking about?
Yeah, I read it.
Oh, you read it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tony.
Yeah.
When did you meet him?
Well, we talked at JPL.
What? You broke up a bit there,
Yeah.
Tony.
Oh, yeah, we talked at JPL. We talked at, long story, but, we were on a tour, and he asked me to move out of the seat on the tram we were going on.
Oh.
So, but then later I did meet him again and talk to him at the Lotus Festival in Echo Park, which he went to.
Lotus Festival? Was that a thing that they did back in the day in L.A.?
Yeah, they still do it.
Yeah, they still do that.
It's like a flower festival for Echo Park. They've got the lake there and the lotuses coming. A lot of people.
Was that a pretty hardcore neighborhood back then?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
It must have been.
Gangish.
Gangish,
Yeah.
So what was this? What happened? What happened when you met him?
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he has incredible sideburns. And he dresses a lot like a football coach I had in high school, Coach Strickland.
Oh,
Coach Strickland.
He looks I mean, he's fitting. They look very much alike, and he's built like a football player. Mr. Bradbury is big guy.
Big guy. So pretty much, Tony. Your contribution here would be that you met him in a park.
Well, we were.
And that I can describe him physically.
You can define him physically?
Describe him physically.
Did you read any of the stories that we all talked about in the production meeting?
Yeah, I did.
All right. Which was your favorite?
My favorite one was the one that has the twist ending. You know what
That was my favorite too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't see that coming.
You didn't see it coming.
You didn't see it coming.
Just like Mr. Bradbury.
In a football coach
In a football
uniform.
coach.
Shut up.
What's happening to this episode? Tony, will you be able to edit this out?
No, this
when
is
you
fantastic,
do this?
man.
When you edit this episode?
Sure, absolutely.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for your contribution.
Sure.
Sure.
Did he just hang up on us?
Did he?
No.
No!
Oh, okay,
Oh,
he's still there.
God. Not like normal. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week, bud.
Sure. All right.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, I mean, need we say more? Like
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap, right? I mean, that's it. I try not to air my frustration with our listeners here. But
What, are you frustrated with the listeners?
no, I'm not frustrated with the listeners.
We
I
love
our
We
listeners.
love our listeners. Keep
I
sending
love
the gifts, folks.
Our listeners, man.
Yeah, the soiled underwear, kind of kinky, but hey.
The
you know?
hotel keys that I get, they don't really make sense because I don't know what room it's for.
And in this day and age, they don't let us through the
They don't
lobby
just let you
anyways.
right in there.
Yeah, it's different.
Especially
It's
me.
different.
There's a lot of hotels in the Los Angeles area I'm not really welcome at anymore.
Yeah.
Mainly due to having random hotel keys. But we had talked about maybe not having the fountain of knowledge that we needed to do this Ray Bradbury episode. And Tony kind of pushed for it. Like, he was like, you gotta do a Bradbury episode. You're a sci-fi podcast. So you gotta do one eventually.
Well, and we were hoping he'd call in and throw another log on the fire.
I thought there'd be something
to kind of beef up where we might have been deficient.
So he met him in a park, is what we got.
He looks like a football coach.
And he looks like
maybe
a football
10 years
coach.
ago.
Well, that pretty much.
And he wasn't dead.
And he was not dead. Yeah,
and Echo Park, kind of gangsterish.
Kind of gangsterish at the time. Now it's mostly hipstery, I believe. Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
It's a wonderful
now.
place to be.
There's lotuses. There's a festival of them. Mm-hmm. You could meet Ray Bradbury at.
What's that thing about getting into the shorts?
We're gonna get into the shorts now.
Oh wow!
Oh, whose shorts?
Down.
Ray Bradbury's?
Mr. Electrico.
Oh.
He's out.
Mr. Electrico.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ray Bradbury, he's primarily a short story writer. I mean,
I
more
believe
than
so.
More than he's only got a handful of novels.
That's as I run through in my mind.
Fahrenheit 451.
Well, that's so that school, Dandelion Wine,
totally,
school, Illustrated Man, school.
Yeah,
like that's why I think from the get go I'm biased on this stuff.
So where does that
refreshing to
where
read
does that
shorts.
put you though? Does that make you go? Because of Mice and Men, school, like.
But we go to Sci-Fi to get out of school.
Well, that's a good point, Kevin. That's a pretty good point,
right?
Man. Yeah.
So he's kind of a canonized white scumbag.
Ooh,
male scumbag.
You had to jump to that extreme. Like,
hey, someone's gonna do it.
Someone's gonna,
and
do
they
it.
have a Y.
It might
in
as
the word
well.
Woman.
Might as well be Kevin. Don't piss off our feminist listeners, Kevin.
I've never understood why they don't spell feminist with all Y's.
Your misspelling of women is your prerogative. Anyway.
I can spell women correctly.
Not you.
And I don't need to say
you.
He, she.
Those people.
Those people.
I did that with my hand over my mouth in a slight.
Speaking of women.
Yes.
All of a Summer Day is a story about a 9-year-old girl
all of summer
on
in a
Venus.
Day. Yeah.
Who got there from Earth when she was 5.
Yes.
So she remembers the sun. This is important because the other children who are Venusian born have only heard tale of a sun because it always rains on Venus.
Source of jealousy, scorn.
Yes.
They've
heard a story that when they were 2, the sun came out. Because on this day when we join this story, the scientists have determined that the sun will come out. And
they're scared, too.
They're scared. They don't like that she knows more than her, and they lock her in a closet. And then the rain clears, and they forget she's in the closet, and they get 2 hours of sunshine, and then they all realize that they left Margot in the closet. Mm-hmm. And that was cruel.
Really cruel.
Amazingly harsh.
Yeah.
I turned and looked at my buddy at work. I read that one at lunch, and I said, that was harsh, man.
Ray Bradbury just
harsh my buzz. I said, dude, do you wanna know? Thinking maybe he'd never read it in his life.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, I don't want to know. And I went, it was the doctor. Spoiled it for him.
Wow.
Yeah. So when he reads that, he's going to be wondering where the doctor is the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he's going to be like, that's like going up to somebody.
He got the joke.
All right. It's like going up to somebody who's tripping acid and go, hey, man, spell luggage right now. It's like kind of a cruel joke.
Why is that a cruel joke?
Because
you couldn't spell?
I couldn't spell, no. I still can't.
I was about to say. It says women. WOMYN up here, and feminism has 3 Y's in it.
Kevin, there's a reason I don't read books.
Yeah?
Because I never learned how. Anyway.
That's a liar.
It is a liar.
That's a lying.
That's a lying. It's a lie.
Lion.
It's a lie.
L-Y-O-N.
L-Y-O-N. Lion. Rawr.
So, as you can see, we're riveted to talk about Ray Bradbury. There was a lot of shorts.
Don't knock it just because we're having a good time, brother. All right?
Is that to me or them?
Everybody.
Email us, please.
At BDD
I'm telling you that now because in 25 minutes when this episode wraps, I'm going to say it again.
At gmail.com.
You'll have already written an email.
Yeah. BDDsci-fi@gmail.com. Start writing now. Like Kevin said, you can hit the send button once you're done.
Oh, by the way, we're going to spoil these stories.
Yeah, we already did. Little girl dead in the fucking closet.
She's alive.
But
in pain. No, she's
alive.
Because she's really tripping out having seen the sun.
Yeah.
And so, like, she really can't stand the rain and has stopped showering at one point because it's, like, rain on you.
Yeah.
And,
it's
pretty cool.
It's a damn good story.
Meanwhile, on Mars...
Hold on, real quick. In the vein of little kids...
You don't have to raise your hand in here, George.
I can't.
See what Ray Bradbury does? You're garnering it for a teacher's attention.
One more thing about the Martian Chronicles, Miss Bliss.
I gotta poo.
I have to poo. Go in the closet, George.
With Margot, that bitch.
Margot, that brain-hating bitch. And those kids were so cruel, man. They were, like, chanting at her. Anyway, the
Lord
story.
of the Flies, another school
Lord of the Flies,
classic.
man, another school classic. But also a really good book.
And also very teachable. Almost every word, not one word is wasted.
Not one word is wasted. Very efficient. That's a great way to describe these. That sounds like a sanitary way to describe these stories. Like, they're very efficient, but I think that's perfect.
Well, were we writing for a time when we were writing for published, we're trying to get a certain length in for a published magazine?
Right.
And these guys own a trade like this. Bukowski could jam out the same kind of size thing. I mean, there's dudes who are trying to get money sent back to them in envelopes for cranking out stories.
Like, here
right?
you go. Give me 1,200 words. We're going to give you a nickel a word. And have it to me by Friday. This is what breeds the type of writer who then feels
we
like...
We should try and do that competition. We should try and write a 1,000-word sci-fi story in a week.
Yeah. In a week?
And then the winner, how many? What's the nickel times 1,000? $50?
$50? Is it?
I won't be able to give that to you if you win. We could do a penny a word.
I don't have $50.
I don't either.
Penny a word that's $10.
$10. $10 to the man who writes the best story. How do we find out? Can the listeners find this out on the website?
Absolutely. We could. We're doing this right now, right?
Okay.
All right. This is a challenge.
Is 1,000 words too short?
No, I don't think so.
Listener, we might change the length. I'd like to count maybe some of the words.
Take a look at the outline here. That's 203 words right there.
Well, so what do you think the average word count was on these stories?
Oh, probably like 4,000 or 5,000.
Well, so it might really be hard to write one in 1,000. Can you write one longer?
Sure. Why don't we just say the best story? Why don't we just say...
Well, because we're going in the spirit of making a nickel a word.
Nickel a word.
We get in the newspapers.
Then
we could read them to you.
Have a Baby Ruth and fight the Nazis.
Yeah. Speaking of Nazis, this batch we read
was
post-World War II.
We're tossing this out here right now. Me and Kevin are going to write, say, 1,500 words, and we're each going to record them as podcasts.
No, I think we post them on the website, too.
We'll post them on the website, but we'll do them as readings the way...
And then you guys are going to vote?
And then the readership will vote. The listenership will vote who's best.
And you guys know that sci-fi could be anything at this point. Considering...
Might be about fucking Superman.
I was about to say,
no.
Won't that be
Here's
awesome?
The problem. I already have a bunch that I've written.
You cannot use something
I can't use something I've already written.
Why would you do that? We're busy dads to do sci-fi. This has got to get real.
We're busy.
You can't go to your file cabinet and go pick your best story.
We're actually doing sci-fi now. We're busy dads and we're doing sci-fi.
Okay. Sci-fi story.
All right. Let's write some sci-fi stories.
So by 2 weeks.
Well, have a good night, everybody.
I'm going on vacation.
You're going on vacation.
No!
I'm going on vacation the middle of July. It's a week. We'll be fine.
We're writing a spy sci-fi. I won't. Okay. We'll figure the details out later, folks. Guess
what?
If you're on Team Kev,
put this into
keep sending that dirty underwear.
I'm starting a collection of hotel keys. One of them will work someday. So Kevin, we'll get into the stories. Did we talk about the night at all?
Let's not burgle our listeners' time by talking about the one.
Burgle.
Isn't it great?
It's great,
it's a great
man.
word, man.
It's a great word. So,
great word.
What about we got the earliest one that he wrote was Tomorrow's Child, which
in this batch,
which was I thought a kind of trippy, cool idea. Woman gives birth. I love the description of the doctor of the hospital. The father's outside smoking, having a couple scotches, waiting for the wife.
Getting kind of hammered.
They get kind of hammered.
He
goes in when the doctor tells him, and And he's like, could I have a drink? And the doctor's like, of course. And I just picture a nurse coming over with like a little cocktail napkin and a scotch and soda. Yeah. And he's just like, oh, okay, let me sit down on this.
Can I smoke in here? Yes. Rest the ashtray on your baby's head.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. Here, take one of my cigarettes. Take one of my special surgeon cigarettes. During the process of birth, the machine used to both hypnotize the woman who's giving birth and help along with the birthing process short circuits, and the child is born into another dimension. So in this other dimension, he would appear normal, but we see him as a representation of this interdimensional figure, which is basically a blue pyramid
with three eyes
on stalks and then little tendrils.
Yeah.
And then this couple is given the choice of you can love this child, or we can take care of him for you. And they say, yeah, we're gonna roll with this.
Mm-hmm.
This was by no means my favorite of the group. I thought it was kind of silly, and I thought it was a little pedestrian. I don't know.
So that's the thing. So in 1948,
was this revolutionary?
You give birth to a pyramid-shaped child.
Is someone reading this on the elevator?
It's again,
and going, holy shit!
Is this writing the equivalent of the drawings of the rockets that we talked about?
But because the quality of them differs so much, like this one compared to All of Summer in a Day or The One Who Waits, I think is vastly inferior.
So it just does less, and it's a short story collection. So one of the benefits of knocking 6 of these back is I got to feel them on a level which is it's not all the eggs aren't in one basket. You just sort of that one didn't punch. This one punches. Yeah. That one did a lot though. It was a matter of perception. I thought that was a pretty hip one.
Well, then they make the decision to. I dug like they make the decision to enter the.
Yeah. The doctor's like, I can't change the boy back to a third dimensional thing. It's just too hard to work it that way. Maybe in 10 years, but I can take the errors that were made and put you through them, and you can see the child in his dimension and become one of those dimensionals. Yeah. Meanwhile, my buddy at work, he just had a newborn, and I'm like, how's it going? He's like, great. My wife is Milk Beast, and I'm a talking shape. And and I was like, I'm reading this story. The pyramid boy sees an oblong rectangle in a larger geometric shape.
They only bounce into that once, right?
No, there's a couple moments where they shoot from the kid's perspective.
Okay, all right. I remember the initial one.
And it would literally, the disconnection and the humor that we were talking about, how his kid must see him, was right there as Ray Bradbury had imagined it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like there's a blob that's warm. There's one that feeds me. It's a little warmer. I like it more.
Yeah, this one's a little bit more familiar. There's something about
that's a call out to Milk Beast. Milk Beast, keep doing what you're doing.
Go for it, Milk Beast.
And talking shape who makes sounds too. He thinks
shape who makes sounds.
Yeah,
that's what we all are for a while. Shape who makes sounds. Mm-hmm. You're doing a beautiful, beautiful thing right now. Mm-hmm. You will only get more distinct, and the sounds will start to make sense to your child.
So when the beast doesn't have two backs, it's either a solo Milk Beast or a shape making sounds.
That's great. Well, eventually you get to be a shape that makes sounds that they just don't like.
Like get your shoes on.
Get your shoes on.
We need to leave, bro.
The absolute innocence in which he will slip into telling me, "I don't like you," is adorable. I'm talking about my 4-year-old Jack. Totes Adorbs. Totes Adorbs, which was the child's name.
Let's go to some of the 2 Martian ones. Because Bradbury wrote the Martian Chronicles. It's a bunch of stories.
Yeah. But they are,
and they're not the ones we read. So he had this world built, right?
Yeah, the Martian Chronicles, other than a few of them, all go in pretty much a chronological order. Like they are interconnected. They're not just a bunch.
So
of
it's like
short
arrival,
it's
set
like,
up colony, colony problems, people wanting to leave colony, Martian interface.
Extinct. The Martians become extinct very early in the book. And from that point on, it's human interaction with the leftover ghosts that are left by Mars, and eventually the transformation as Earth becomes uninhabitable into human beings, specifically actually at the end of the book, one family becoming the new Martians.
Well, and so
but it follows an arc throughout the whole thing, so I believe most of it was written to be the Martian Chronicles, even though it was originally serial.
And so one that we read was called Dark They Were, and Their Eyes Were Gold.
Which is what they are in the Martian Chronicles.
So that's the first Martian family.
Yeah.
Is a human family that slowly becomes, by eating food grown in Martian soil, they become the golden-eyed Martians?
Well, the golden-eyed Martians are who we meet as Martians. So there's some speculation that this was like a prequel, basically, too, that the whole thing was cyclical, and that humanity was originally the Martians, and if that's the case, that Martian Chronicles doesn't have a beginning or an end. It's kind of long, you know what I mean? Like,
well, what fascinates me is Dark They Were, and The One Who Waits is another one that's based on Mars that we read, and both kind of have a sleeping Martian presence. Like, I believe if your soil turns you into a Martian, and you've got a symbiotic relationship with your planet that makes the newest inhabitants become the Martians.
Yeah.
So the Martians are kind of always there.
Yeah. They are clear in The One Who Waits that it is Mars. I didn't recall that being.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And,
it makes a lot of sense considering.
He describes one of the greatest details. He calls the Martian sand the cinnamon sand as it blows.
Fantastic.
And one of these cinnamon specks is in a well in The One Who Waits, and he travels from the personnel that's landed on Mars very wonderfully.
It was creepy. It was cool, and
a great way to like break into identity. He actualizes, kind of like an AI would be described in other books we've read or stories we've watched. So he goes from I'm sitting in a well to you see guys talking to I am Dave Jones. And he has jumped into the consciousness of one of the humans.
Yeah, his memory is who he is. He's intact. Like he starts narrating.
So that would be a Martian presence that's the size of a speck of dust, which would turn into that. Maybe that dust stuff is in the food that can get you animated. If you're a parasite, you need a host. A detail in The One Who Waits, that parasite does continue to kill the host.
Which doesn't seem
until they all,
but it doesn't seem malicious. Like it's not like a.
You don't like it if you're Dave Jones.
Well, no, but from his point of view, he's just like that's kind of what I loved is he's just waiting. He's just kind of like doing what he does. You don't like it if you're the victim,
which is to exterminate anyone coming to Mars.
Yes, which is his thing. But that's
which then implies that a Martian is a speck of dust that lives in a well waiting, or maybe he's just part of the defense system. Or maybe he's
just part of whatever is. In the Martian Chronicles, they talk about kind of the remnants of Martian civilization, and something very similar to what happened in The One Who Waits occurs, where an astronaut lands and he proclaims himself the last Martian and goes about exterminating. They're ambiguous as to whether or not he is actually possessed or whether or not he has just gone crazy. But things like that do occur in Martian Chronicles. And
speaking of that, though, I couldn't help but to think of a man who came later, which was Larry Niven, who has a giant world. He knows the Ring world. There are great stories. One of my favorite collections is Tales of Known Space, and it was cool. It made me want to jump into a world that Bradbury had written to kind of take the ride on another guy. Where would we be without Ray Bradbury? I I think it's commonly understood that
Yeah.
you can't have much of the stuff that we even talk about.
Right. I mean,
Without him.
I had written he's got parts of the moon and Mars named after him, and has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Well, so does Michael Jackson.
But not parts of the moon.
Do you know Michael Jackson and Kmart have in common?
No, Kevin. No, I do know. I
You
do
do?
know, and I'm not.
Not?
I'm not allowing that.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you go there, man.
They both have a popcorn machine in their house.
Kmart has a popcorn machine in its house.
Oh. It doesn't really work when...
Doesn't really
Dude,
work.
this is such a crude episode, and you won't... I would have tied in so nicely.
How is this a crude episode so far? We're talking about Ray fucking Bradbury,
have
man.
you blacked out the first 10 minutes of this?
Probably.
Yeah.
All right, I am
Tony
losing.
called.
I'm losing my
I
sugar.
feel I forgot. I feel like we had a normal
I feel like
episode.
we have
That...
He never calls, period, let alone during a podcast recording.
And he didn't actually hang up. Usually he just clicks it off like I thought it was.
He's also supposed to be in the other room monitoring levels, which is he clearly is not.
He also supposedly wants an internship, but doesn't somehow act like an intern.
So,
A couple more here. We doing this?
Yeah.
Okay, take the ride. Set
right.
us up, George.
all right, I think that one of the things that I really, really like about Ray Bradbury is Ray Bradbury himself, his personality. He seems very, very kind of larger than life.
I didn't get access to Ray Bradbury himself. I only know his works.
I'll tell
George.
you a little bit. I watched some of that TV show that you had
yes.
mentioned to Tony, the Ray Bradbury stories. Many of those episodes are available on YouTube, and some of them are adaptations of his short stories.
Do you think Tony tried to watch the ones? Did he do like a total
I'm
high
willing
school
to
cliff
bet
notes?
he hurriedly cruised through a couple and maybe even right up until when he was calling, he's flipping through it and he's like, yeah, he looks just like, he's looking at Google Images. He's got amazing sideburns. But
Tony and Vic have been in LA for a long time. It's
a long
highly
time.
probable.
Yeah, highly probable that at some point they came across Ray Bradbury, or at least his star on the Walk of Fame.
And that's where you left off. Mars, Moon, and Hollywood Walk of Fame.
And an asteroid. The guy has won every friggin' science fiction award. He won a U.S. Freedom Medal. He's won a Prometheus Award. He's won a Pulitzer. I'm saying.
I read that was a Pulitzer citation, it said. That's like getting a warning ticket from the Pulitzer.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not a Pulitzer. It was like a hey,
sir, you've been writing very
hey,
close
buddy,
to the Pulitzer
thanks
level.
a lot for those cute little space stories. There's so many people out there that are gonna. Most of them are our sons.
Author, drop your pen out the window and turn the typewriter off.
Author. But he in this show he did this that HBO did. He does the opening narration of it, and he even appears in some little vignettes before the episodes. And he seems like kind of a bit of a carnival barker of science fiction. He's got this whole it's anything you want. Your imagination is boundless, and everything this thing I'm talking into here. This isn't just a microphone. It's also a science Martian orb that's capable
that's
of.
kind of that Disney kind of.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of that.
Have you heard that Ray Bradbury had an
engineering.
idea to fix traffic?
No,
And it was to pave all the LA River stuff? Make those roads.
really.
Yeah.
Is that a good idea?
Yeah, it could be.
Isn't the LA
You
River?
ever look at all that flat space and wonder
Wonder
how
why
quick
the
you'd be getting
hell?
home?
It's a straight line. Jesus Christ!
Nice view.
Why
Look
don't-
at there's a hobo washing his ass in a algae-filled
Oh,
reservoir.
great. There's another photographer taking a photo of a nude woman amongst the weeds in
Yeah.
LA River. Wow. Way to go, buddy. Or at least, you know what? Let's maybe we can move the inclines over a little, those steep
Well,
fucking...
it's probably worth a Google, but I think being a citizen in LA, this was kind of like a solve or a proposal.
I also read that
He
he was well known for supporting a lot of struggling libraries in Los Angeles. He's been a huge advocate of public libraries most of his life.
What do you just got to pin them down till they calm down?
Yeah, you just got to basically give him some noogies and hold him. Come here, you. Hey, you got that money for that library?
Library, don't struggle.
Speaking of money for libraries,
oh, where are you
I
at?
found the Down on the Docks Thomas the Tank Engine book today.
You owe like $3,000 on that.
I don't know
you?
how much. It's been over a year. It's been over a year that I've had this book out from the LA Central
You're gonna
Library.
have to.
So what do I do? Do I just say
I know someone who met Ray Bradbury, and I know he helps struggling libraries. Can you give me amnesty,
sir? I would like to invoke the Bradbury clause. Mr. Rigadell, that is not a thing. No. I have my dear friend Tony, met him in the park at the Lotus Festival.
You don't happen to be speaking about Intern
Not
Tony.
Intern
Yes,
Tony.
he stole a lot of the titles out of this library. We're sure he didn't know how to read, yet he stole the books.
It's either that or he's got a whole wing named after him. He's this philanthropist that we never even knew about.
Mm-hmm.
The guy wrote every day of his life, Ray Bradbury. And he produced some stories that I think on some level kind of like, I mean, I'm not being dramatic when I say, like, I feel like Martian Chronicles kind of changed my life. Like, I feel like I'm open-minded enough.
I'm pretty sure you're being dramatic. I'm
no,
pretty sure you
look,
don't have the introspection to know that.
Here's the thing.
You're on tape, and you've got an ego saying this.
Don't you feel like you're open-minded enough where you can read something or you can even just watch something, and on some level, it kind of changes a trajectory of your life. It makes you think in a different way.
I mean, yeah.
I think that's what Martian Chronicles did.
When did you read it?
Like
last year.
Yeah, last year for the first time.
What did it do?
It changed my life.
How?
Because I hadn't read it before.
You'd never read a book,
So
man. It was a big deal for you, man. You were stringing together sentences.
Just stringing together a few sentences here and there, and then.
What are you going to read next, man?
Kevin, I don't like to rush these things, man.
You don't.
I think these short stories were the touchstone of growth, and I kind of am just excited to see
You were
where
just
it
trying
goes
to
from
impress
here,
Pat
man.
McCrotch. Whatever he's got on you,
Trying
you're
to
reading to
impress
cover
Pat.
it up. He's blackmailing you, isn't he?
I think he's listening to this podcast now too. So
That's gonna backfire.
he's a good-looking guy.
George,
Kevin,
I wonder what the listeners think. Do they like where we are? Do we need to be reading books? Do you like just hearing us talking about it? Absolution Gap, by the way, the third and final of the Revelation space, is beautiful so far. Just going to say that there's got to be one listener out there who's like, yeah, man, thanks for mentioning that, dude. That stuff is the tits,
you
bro.
got a lot of. Well, I don't know if they're saying that because most of them probably haven't seen tits, but
Lisa,
I sing the body electric.
Now you sing this.
Binary dystopian droids seeking feeling. William Shatner's in an episode of that Ray Bradbury Theater.
I bet he is.
Thing.
He's
William
kind of a
Shatner,
hoe, ain't he?
Drew Barrymore.
Oh, no.
When
Don't
she's
even.
like 12 years old.
Yeah. Pre-Firestarter?
Probably post-Firestarter. Certainly post-E.T.
Post-Fi-Sty?
Fi-Sty. PFS.
Mm-hmm.
BDDSF. BDD-Sci-Fi at gmail.com. We're on Instagram at BDD-Sci-Fi. Ray Bradbury changed my life. I'm not backing down from that, Kevin.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
I think he changed your life, too.
I enjoyed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep taking the ride on some Ray Bradbury. I think I'm in this one for a bit. It's similar to me. It's almost like a challenge, like Doctor Who is. Like there's so much material out there, and I enjoy it. So it's sort of like, yeah, I think I want to just keep going on this for a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listener, do you want to keep going?
You want to keep
You've
going?
been with us 50 minutes.
This is going to be our 40th episode, man.
This is the 40th episode? Let's just go for like 3 more hours. They'll get it.
What the hell?
Let's just start reading Ray Bradbury.
Let's talk about
You've done that already.
Let's talk about...
You know what? I just realized this is a whole propaganda thing for George. You've already read the listeners of Ray Bradbury episode. Did you realize that wasn't George just coming up with something?
It's not propaganda if it's true.
By the way, if you take a Ray Bradbury story and plagiarize it for this competition, the readers will know.
But you won't.
You won't?
Don't.
What does that mean?
Do not betray. That's not funny.
I don't know what that is. Was that a joke?
No, you were just making fun of the way I say won't.
You said that really. You don't. I never hear you say it like that.
I say won't. I do.
That was. You said won't. You really woonted it up. You really cranked it up.
You're now my third friend. I thought you were different, Kevin. You're the third friend now who's pointed out.
Is this what you just wait quietly to be blindsided by people, then blackmail them into reading more Ray Bradbury?
Yeah, that's
I almost
what I
said
do.
Pat Bradbury.
You almost said who? Pat Bradbury.
Pat Bradbury.
That's who it is. It's his son.
Yes, which is why we have talked about Tomorrow's Child, All of a Summer and a Day, The One Who Waits, Dark They Were and Gold Were Their Eyes. Two others we read were The Golden Apples of the Sun. We briefly touched that. And there was one called Sound of Thunder, which, by the way, hats off, basically a time-traveling Jurassic Park thing.
Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool.
And, of course, screws up the time stream.
Yeah.
And a pretty cool, creative way to...
the wrong president gets elected.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of funny.
And they spell wrong.
Yeah, like the sign is wrong.
Like,
I love that I wrote Golden
women.
Apples of the Waits on there, and it makes me almost think of like a lost Tom Waits album.
That's...
Golden Apples of the Waits.
Hey, yeah, that's, yeah.
All of summer in a day.
Tom Waits is a personal experience, and no one should talk about it.
Margot in the closet. I don't like Tom Waits.
That's what I'm saying. You shouldn't talk about it. People you know and love like Tom Waits. I'm not really one of them, but I'm guaranteeing it. It's one of those things people get. People. It touches them, and you say shit like that, and people get all weird on it.
I have had a couple people give me large amounts of Tom Waits to listen to, and I have listened to a good amount of it, and there's poetry there, certainly. I have trouble kind of getting over that and going like, oh, this is music, you know? Because I mean, I love a lot of things. Like, I mean, Leonard Cohen, Nick Cave, you know, like there's a lot of things in a similar vein but are just a little more melodic. What the hell are we talking about now?
Busy Dad.
Nick Cave is actually Sci-Fi, I believe. I don't know why.
I can tell you why.
Why?
I think he's been in a Sci-Fi movie.
Nick
Cave is an author, by the way, and writes pretty crazy.
Is he?
Religious style, Southern Gothic kind of weird stories.
Is he also a director?
Probably.
Didn't he direct? He directed a couple of Australian films, I think.
That would make sense.
Yeah. Why, is he Australian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
I didn't know that. No.
How's this drawing to a close, man? How are we getting out of this?
Now we're talking about the shorts that Kevin is wearing.
Yeah. No.
How are we getting out of
No.
this? When we get to
we're
a
not
point,
getting out that way.
We're not getting out.
Yeah.
This is
I
know
gotta-
what? The whole
Let's go
Sci-Fi
back.
short story, you're in it right now. There's no way out of this podcast.
All right, here's how we're getting out. What are we
doing?
doing? We're going to give our readers a teaser.
I'm sweating.
A teaser. 2-sentence teaser about the story you're going to write.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
So here's the one problem, though. It might not be the story I write, but here's
That's
what
fine,
I'm working with right now.
But it's what you got going on.
Okay.
Take your time.
I got nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
Is that
Let's
one of
see.
the sentences?
Yes, that's it. I got nothing.
I got nothing in a dark
Said
world.
Artificial. We're screwed. What's yours?
All right.
You're just going through that file cabinet in your mind.
No.
All right.
So, like an actual piece of the story, or like almost like
The idea. What's the kernel?
idea? Oh, okay. A robot. No.
This is where, you know what? We're going to out ourselves some sci-fi elements because all we can really say is like, robot,
time travel.
not wearing a cape,
not wearing a
has
cape.
an artificial
Star drive.
love affair
Wormhole.
with a
planet that's known for spikes.
Nebulon, and
it hasn't rained in years. No, I would say intergalactic political civil war, where that's way too long. That's not gonna make it. All right, gotcha. Alien invasion on Earth. Resistance being built from underground using the internet as a means of recruitment. I got ya. These are not short stories.
no, they're
man.
space operas.
Escape pod. There you go.
Gonna
Escape pod.
Escape
So I'm
pod.
leaving it on that. Escape
I'll go
pod.
implants.
Implants. Escape pod and implants. Well, kind of
Story
implants.
of Tanya Harding's life.
Escape pod and implants.
The story, the Tanya Harding story. Next
story.
on Lifetime.
Good night, nurse.
Good night, nurse.